And as a journalist, it really bothers me. As a journalist, it's like when everyone is out there saying, Russiagate, he should be impeached. Everyone except for Fox. It really puts my radar up because to me, that's all a political agenda. And it almost makes you want to take the other side just to slow things down, just so that the audience at home understands there is another argument. You should be aware that there's another argument you're not being told. That stuff really drives me crazy because listen, if you sent me into court when I was practicing law and said, you're the prosecutor, and I got to put on all of my witnesses, do my opening and my closing, and the other side didn't get to do an opening, a closing, or cross-examine any of my witnesses or even present a case, I would win every case. It'd be very easy to win. And that's what I feel the media does these days. And honestly, like it happens on both sides, but the media outside of Fox is all controlled by the left. And it drives me nuts because I think honest consumers, not partisans for the most part just want to hear their worldview affirmed, but honest consumers, they want to get smarter. They want to get more informed. How do you do that? You've got to listen to your adversary's argument and then decide, is this something I want to pursue because I know instinctually that I'm right and I got to go get the evidence? Or is this a position I should abandon because he's got the better of me? I have that intellectual curiosity. I always call myself a learn-it-all instead of a know-it-all. Mm-hmm. And it really bothers me to watch, like I watched MSNBC the other night after the presidential debate, and they had 3 hardline leftists, not liberals, leftists, mm-hmm. talking about the debate. Like, well, this isn't helpful. I'm not even hearing what the Republicans are saying in response to this. Like, I learned nothing from that debate, but I really learned nothing from the coverage afterward.
Yeah, I get incredibly bored when I know what the take is going to be. If you hate Trump, the take is going to be Trump was horrible and Biden won, right? There's no possible debate that could have happened that would elicit a different take. So what I want to hear is from someone that genuinely doesn't have a stake in saying either Trump or Biden won. I want to see what their reaction was because their take is actually dependent upon what happens, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how did you think, as someone who's moderated, how did you think Chris Wallace did in that shitstorm of a debate?
Well, I felt bad for him because it was so out of control. I was a little surprised that he was so taken aback by it because when we prepared for debates back in the Fox News days, and I've done 5 of them, a few with Chris, we always had a plan for if they get out of control. And especially Trump, we knew he had an ability to talk over and try to hijack the exchanges. And we did have a plan to cut his mic. So I'm not to this moment even sure whether he had control over it. Like, I don't know if you do it. I've never done a general election debate. Does the Commission on Presidential Debates control the camera and the mic and the rules? Or do you and your team? I wouldn't anchor something that I didn't have control over, how the logistics of it were going to go. Because if I'm hosting, my job is to protect the audience. Mm-hmm. That's the job. Ask fair questions, make sure the system's fair, people can be heard, and the audience at home is well served. That's it. I'm not in it for either one of these guys. Screw these guys. It's these guys behind me who I have to protect. And I absolutely would have done it. I would have said, you got to put the camera on me and you got to give me the ability to cut the mics. And if Trump started doing this, I would have said, go on as long as you want. The camera's off and your mic is off, but go ahead. We'll wait.
Yeah.
Coleman, you only have to do that once. You only have to teach them one time.
Yep.
And then they get back in line, in my experience. And it should have been done early so that he learned. And Biden interrupted Trump something like 70 times too. So neither one was a model candidate. But I think Chris, I'm very objective on it because I like Chris. He's not a warm and fuzzy guy, but he's a talented guy. Mm-hmm. And I think he leans left politically, though I couldn't swear to it. But I've never seen him be anything but fair. I think he presses both sides. That debate, I see why the right was upset. I see he cut off Trump going after Hunter Biden. He didn't follow up with Biden on him saying he didn't want to answer the question about whether he'll pack the Supreme Court, right? It was like, that's a pretty important one. He kind of gave the benefit of the doubt to Biden a few times and never to Trump. So I see their complaints. The only thing I would say is that in the heat of the moment, when you're anchoring the debate and the clock is ticking and you're stressed because every interruption he's doing and their back and forth is costing you another question. And you're going to get hit for not asking this question. It's an important question. You tend to like want to wrap it, like want to just like, okay, I see your point. And that's why I think Chris was like, you're going to really like this next question, Mr. Trump, or just try to put a point on it in a way that wound up sounding more favorable to Biden. And here we are.
Yeah. And the way Trump speaks, I think makes it more difficult because, so I watched the debate and my impression was that Trump started out much stronger than Biden seemed. Mm-hmm. But as the debate went on, Trump got increasingly petty and narcissistic, which looked bad. And then Biden, sort of stopped stuttering as much and hit his stride and was looking more presidential. So they kind of started in one position and ended in the other, as far as I could tell. But there was a moment at the very end of the debate where Chris was asking both candidates whether they would concede because of Trump's recent comments. And when I viewed it in real time, Trump seemed unwilling to just say, yes, if it's yes, I'll concede if I lose fair and square, which really made me nervous because the peaceful transition of power is the bedrock of a democracy. And so I got incredibly anxious when he was saying that. But then I went back and read the transcript. And there's actually a part where Trump is about to say, yes, I'll concede if it's fair. But Chris actually interrupted him mid-sentence. And the thing is, the way Trump talks, it's so elliptical. He doesn't start with the topic sentence.
No, that's true.
Joe Biden will start with the topic sentence, even if there's some stuttering involved. And, he'll just say, yes, if it's fair. Trump will start on a caveat in the third paragraph that he really wants to talk about and won't get to the topic sentence. And I think that makes it easier because there's no other politician like him to take the worst possible interpretation of what he says. And then anything you say to try to persuade, a Trump voter, they can just point to 10,000 instances where the media has taken him out of context. And it's this very toxic thing.
We're broken. I mean, we're really broken right now in the media, and the hard partisans are broken. I think, people who aren't that political, they're fine. They're a little fed up with all the nonsense. But I think if you spend too much time in news and cable news, you see the most divided factions a lot. I don't know if it represents normal civilians in the country. But I do think it's really bad between the hard partisans. I think as far as Trump goes, I actually think he will go. I think the reason he won't, if he loses, I think the reason he's not going to answer that is because if it's a tight contest and it goes up as a legal challenge, he's not going to promise anybody he's going to vacate the White House 1 minute before he has to. But once it's settled, if there were a legal challenge that went up to the Supreme Court, I don't think there's any chance in hell Trump would hold on sitting at the Resolute desk, being dragged out, kicking and screaming. That's not going to happen. His ego is too big to allow that to happen.